What a joy it is to be here on Shabbat morning for a lesson. We will hear Rob in a moment. The last lessons that we went through are amazing. It's though it's happened. It's happening today. It's always relevant. We're in preparation towards the lesson. Let's hear Rav. Every single action is divided into several stages. The stage that truly determines that I will carry out the action is called recognizing the necessity, the urgency. This is what we need to reach. It is a necessity for the help of the friends, which is in order to receive it. I need help from them. Without them, I cannot achieve the goal. I work in the form of a receiver towards them, even a cruel one. I want to use them to exploit them, but at least that. From here onward comes the true attitude towards them, that they are important to me. I have no choice. I need them. So, why are they not influencing me? Why aren't they acting upon me as they should? I have no one besides them, and the Creator who will bestow to me. The Creator bestows, and beyond that He will do nothing more. They must do it. Why aren't they doing it? From this, I already begin to think about how I will bestow to them, so they will bestow to me. If I want them to bestow upon me an additional desire, an additional awakening towards spirituality, so I myself must instill in them and direct them so that they will bestow back to me precisely this. Everything depends on the necessity, but from where will I be awakened to? These things again through group work that we decide together for this. There's also a Rav and also books from which we receive a beginning, an initial push, and we need to start working for this silent workshop. Let's establish in our common heart the necessity of the work in the 10 and enter the lesson with it. Let's establish in our common heart the necessity of the working the 10 and enter the lesson with it. This is from March 14, 2003, based on the article from Rabash. What kind of mitzvot purify the heart? We'll read it together in the 10. We have 9 minutes for that. 10 who finish are invited to start a workshop based on the main insights from the article. We're reading from Rabash. Which keeping of mitzvot purifies the heart? Which keeping of mitzvot purifies the heart? Question. Does keeping in order to receive reward purify the heart too? Our sages said, I have created the evil inclination. I have created the spice of Torah. This means that it does purify the heart. But is it so when one aims specifically at not receiving a reward? Or does it also purify the heart if one works in order to receive a reward? Answer. In the introduction to the Book of Zohar, it's written, when one begins to engage in var, is appropriate when serving the king. Even in Lesh, the point in one's heart begins to grow and shows its activity. This is so because mitzvot do not require intention, and even actions without intention can purify one's will to receive, but in its first degree called still, and to the extent that one purifies the still part of the will to receive, one gradually builds to the 613 organs of the point of the heart, which is the still of. Thus we see that observing even purifies the heart. Question. Is the path of observing in order not to be rewarded meant only for a chosen few, or can anyone walk this path of observing everything in order not to be rewarded, by which they will be rewarded with the Creator? Answer. Although the will to receive for oneself alone emerged at the thought of creation, being given a correction that the souls will correct it to being, in order to bestow, meaning by observing, we will turn our will to receive to be, in order to bestow. This is given to everyone without exception. For everyone was given this remedy, not necessarily a chosen few. But since this is a matter of choice, some advance more quickly and others more slowly. But as it is written in the introduction to the Book of Zohar, in the end, everyone will achieve their complete perfection. As it is written, the outcast shall not be outcast from hen. Still, when beginning to learn to observe, one begins in. This is because man is created with a will to receive. Hence he does not understand anything that does not yield himself benefit, and he will never want to begin to observe to mitzvot. It is as the Rambam wrote, sages said, one should always engage in Torah, even Lishma, because from Lishma one comes to Lishma. Hence when teaching children and women, In the populace they are only taught to work out of fear and to receive reward, and when they gain knowledge and acquire wisdom, that secret is revealed to them bit by bit. They are accustomed to it calmly, until they attain him and serve him with love. Thus, we see from the Ramban's words that everyone should achieve. But the difference is in the timing. Question: if a person sees and feels that he is walking the path that leads to Lishmar, should he try to influence others also, so the other will walk on the right path too or not? Answer: this is a general question. It is like a religious person examining a secular person. If he knows that he can reform him, then he must reform him due to the mitzvah commandment, "Thou shalt surely rebuke your friend." Similarly, in this case, it can be said that you should tell your friend about the better way that one can go, provided your intention is only the mitzvah. But there are many times when a person rebukes another only for the purpose of domination, and not in order to and not because of the mitzvah to rebuke your friend. And we learn from the above that everyone wants the other to walk on the path of truth has created disputes between Orthodox and secular, between the Lithuanian faction and among them themselves. This is because each one thinks that he is right, and each one wants to persuade the other to walk on the right path. Now we share the impressions from the lesson, and what do we take out of it for implementation in the 10. We notice in the article that Rash presents to us that it's really aimed at us, the group. I feel the emphasis that focuses us on how to differentiate between getting closer to mitzvot and building the connection between us. How that's a place that strengthens our scrutiny of prayer and can lead us to come out of ourselves. I wrote down in the book from Brez's word that without an intention, what does it mean without an intention is that I try to have an intention with pressure, but I don't manage so. Without an intention is a degree, and a person sometimes feels that he goes on the path of truth, the path of lemma. There's really go into details here. Does he need to bestow to another that the other will also go on this track? Does he need to care to take care of himself? Everything here is very specific and focused. Yes, Rabish says that on the one hand. Now we will move to a lesson from the 14th of March 2003. Rob, we heard a short article from the Runs of the Letter Volume 5, which keeping of Turin mitzvot purifies the heart. What does that even mean? Keeping the Torah, and this is something that everyone is saying, but does anyone know? We're speaking out of the point that the Creator created a will to receive, and besides the will to receive, we have no other substance in creation, and from that we should always start our investigations. The will to receive is neither good nor bad, it's the substance of creation, and the purpose of creation is to bring the will to receive to compatibility with the Creator. What kind of compatibility can there be if the will to receive is existence from absence, and it cannot be similar to the root? It is something which is a completely different kind. So, through the intention in the usage of the will to receive, we can make two forms for it, either the opposite form of the Creator, if it is in order to receive, or a form that is similar to the Creator, if it is in order to bestow, and if it is neither this nor that, then there is nothing to talk about. It is simply raw matter. So what we're talking about is we're talking about only one thing: how the will to receive can be given a form that is similar to the Creator. In the will to receive, we have 613 specific desires, the correction of each and every desire from those 613 specific desires by installing on top of it an intention to bestow is called performing a mitzvah commandment. Why mitzvah? Because it is a commandment, it's a law. Whether a person wants to or not, he will have to do it. He will have to correct it to update the intention to bestow on top of each and every one of those 613 desires. There is a general will to receive called soul, the soul of Adam, or simply, and this Adam, in order to correct this general soul, was divided into, we say 600,000 parts, but in truth it is billions of parts, where each and every part also incorporated from those 613 parts, but each one in his unique measure, so that altogether, all of the parts in there connection are the same and in the same general sore. For what purpose was it divided so? It will be easier to correct. It's easier to correct each and every part, and then connect all the parts, and we reach the same result. There's all kinds of examples for that. Of a king who wanted to transfer his treasure from one place to another, but all the people in his kingdom are thieves, and so he divided all of his treasure into pennies or small amounts, and he gave each one, let's say, 100 shekels to move from one place to another. It's not worthwhile for a person to steal 100 shekels because, nevertheless, he has some pride. Each one has some small screen, and this is something that he is able to do. So this is how we correct the will to receive many particular desires over many incarnations, and in this way each one comes from one place to another place. He moves a part of the king's treasure that is assigned to him, and that's it. This is how we correct it. This is called that we perform the mitzvot. When do we truly perform the mitzvot? Always. There is some interval from the path where we incarnate over thousands of incarnations, thousands of years, unawares, and each one of us is living. He doesn't know what he's living for, but he's living. If he was born, then he lives, and he performs all kinds of actions here in this life, in this world, what we call go and make a living out of each other. We don't even know what we're living for. What are we doing? But there is some general plan, that by that even through such actions that are unaware, subconscious, so that we're not aware of what we're doing, but we nevertheless do something. We make corrections. It's like little children who do all kinds of things, but they themselves don't know it. But these actions somehow operate on them, and through them they grow up. So they grow up until it is already expected, demanded of these children to perform conscious actions with understanding, with an intention. What are you doing it for? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? And it is the same with us. And it is written in many sources of Kabbalah that from the end of the 20th century, or in short from the 20th century onwards, humanity will enter a state where it already has to continue the correction of the desires. This is the king's treasure. This is what he created. So, already to make a correction over these desires in a conscious manner. The state of childhood is over, and we need to start to relate to our life with awareness, meaning with the question, what is the point in our life? What are we living for? What are we doing? That's how we have to approach each and every action, as much as we relate to our ability to carry out, to do something seriously. Our life is more beneficial. And Colists write that just as the world is previous era, over thousands of years before Abraham, and also after Abraham, and until this very day, that this whole period of time was hidden from humanity. It had to be concealed, but only from unique individuals that had to only pass it on to prepare the method of Kabbalah. So now, whether we want to or not, the whole of humanity necessarily enters a state where it will have to know for what purpose it exists, and what is the purpose of this existence, either through in its time, necessarily through suffering, until they will see that indeed there is no choice. We have to exit this kind of childish life into a more serious life. We can see what we do with a child that doesn't want to grow up and wants to remain a child. You have to give him suffering and blow so that he will realize that life demands a serious attitude. So this is the path of suffering, the path of in its time, or the path of hastening. Path of hastening means that before troubles force us to relate seriously to life, before the troubles reach us, we will start to grow wiser before and relate to life in a serious way and search on our own. What is the point in life? What are we living for? What is the reason? What is the goal of life? And so on. This is what it's all about. So when he writes, which keeping of Torah not purifies the heart, of course, purifying the heart already refers to people who should already begin to relate to it in a conscious manner. Otherwise he wouldn't write about it. In previous years, they didn't write anything for us in the thousands of previous years. But now when they do write about it, they write for people who already need to start relating to their life on their own. So which keeping of Torah and mitzvot, meaning which work on the person's desires. Refineses the heart, purifies the heart, meaning corrects the desires. The heart means the desires. Correct the desires with the intention to bestow. This means through which actions of mine and my relation to these actions I install a screen on top of each and every desire. So he explains that this is a calling to how much a person relates to all of his actions in a conscious manner, in an intelligent manner, that he knows why and for what purpose he's doing it. The more he puts exertion into it, puts himself into it, accordingly, his actions are more beneficial. Now, in order for us to quickly and get to know our nature, the evil inclination was prepared for us. This means intentions in order to receive in advance, so that we don't come from the neutral will to receive as it exists in the world of insoft before the first restriction, or in the world where it is entirely unrelated to the intention, but rather the will to receive is already connected with the qualities of the Creator in a single subject. So from that a special relation is born, from the will to receive to the qualities of the Creator, and this relation is called the evil inclination or the good inclination. We learn according to the cascading of the worlds, the Creator created the will to receive through the 4 phases of direct light. The will to receive develops through them. It reaches Malhut of himself. We learned therein, part 1 of Farters, that even though it exists in complete adhesion, and there is no difference between it and the light that fills it, nevertheless it feels itself that it exists in some kind of difference from the light. This is called a feeling of shame. Even though that feeling of shame doesn't hinder the unity, there are things that we need to scrutinize, but whichever way you look at it, this is not yet the will to receive that is ready for usage, but rather the will to receive that is ready for usage should be only that it is born out of its comparison with the quality of the Creator. And so, all of these preparations in and so are not sufficient in order to start scrutinizing those qualities of the will to receive and the will to bestow the Creator's quality. And then we have the matter of the shattering of the vessels and their fall, meaning a complete distancing from the Creator. What does that give? What it gives is that we have in a single subject called the soul or Adam, and then Sharma, the soul, is called Adam. Adam means a part of Adam Harishan. This structure is called Adam, not our biological body. That in this structure of the soul there are already 2 forces together of a desire that the Creator created, and also the Creator, the Creator's quality itself, and in the comparison between these 2 qualities we have an outcome, a recognition of one opposite the other, and then we can also determine that quality of ours if it is the evil inclination or the good inclination, and how to invert one into the other. And so we cannot really talk about the scrutiny of the keeping of Torah and meaning of the correction, which correction needs to be before we feel that we have within us these 2 parts, the part of the Creator and the part of the created being in a single subject, and that the light will come and clarify for us what is each and every part, and in which is one preferable to the other. This means that our work is not to just relate to what we have within us. Our work is to prepare the conditions for this review, for this examination, so that we will see it in the right form. So the work begins. That is long before we begin to see what is inside of us, and that we will see it in the light of the Lord, so that the quality of the Creator will be the worthy one, the one that will be preferable over the quality of the created being. So in order for us to prepare ourselves so that we will have such an outlook, this is really all of our work, and we always start the work from Lishma. That is always, and that will not change, but rather, whichever way it is, a person will always be born and begin in each and every incarnation, in each and every life. It doesn't matter what previous results he had in his previous incarnations. So we will always have to begin the work from Lishma, and from this Lishma meaning from the recognition of the evil inclination in us, the opposite to form from the Creator, we will have to reach the correction, the match. Tell me what else to say. Maybe there's something else. Is there some goal that a person needs to put before him? One goal that is correct in all steps of the work, that should always be in my mind in all the stages. Is there some goal that a person should place before him as some kind of a skeleton that this is what is working. For I think that anyone studying the wisdom of Kabbalah already understands that if there is a will to receive in its form of an order to receive and a purpose of creation, meaning the general law is to bring the will to receive to the form of an order to bestow. So if you join this process, then you accelerate it and you feel good during this whole walk, because all in all what is happening is also according to your desire. This is called the path of Torah, and besides that there's nothing else to do in reality, meaning you also discover that the whole of reality in its still, vegetative, animated, and speaking of it, it is all actually going truly marching towards this process, but to the extent that the person does not want to agree with it, he wants to shut his eyes. He wants to seemingly run away from the campaign. To that extent, his general law of bringing the whole of nature and the whole of creation to an order to bestow, to equivalence with the Creator, this law works on him as a compelling force. And so a person feels in that suffering every moment that this force compels him to develop, compels him to do something, and then he does that thing. But as much as in each stage and in every moment he is in suffering until he agrees to do it, he will be obligated to do it. And so, one who hears that, and he wants to check whether it is correct, he simply enters the method of Kabbalah, and he starts to accept, to digest, to implement this law of development on it, on himself self. We have nothing more to do. And then we discover that all of the other things, except for us taking this law and doing it out of our own volition, besides that, all the other actions we do in our lives are actions that are completely beastly, mandatory that they come to us and we keep them without any free choice. And the free choices are specifically at that point to take this law of development according to my own will, meaning to make it so that I will also want to develop according to this law or to let go of it. The free choice is only towards this law of development, and all the other things that we do are completely in a compulsory form, as he says. Just like everything that we see from the still vegetative and animate, we don't see it on ourselves because we are the speaking degree, so we can see it on the lower degrees. To what extent in them there is no free choice. If we will elevate ourselves to a higher degree, we will also see on ourselves that indeed, besides the spiritual degree that we will rise to, everything else below that degree, meaning below the acquisition of the screen and keeping things with the intention to bestow, all the other things we have are also just like animals, beasts and plants. It is all in a compulsory form, and we also learned that from the 4 phases of direct light we can see it that until phase 4 develops to phase 4. Within phase 4 it's not called created being everything that happens in it happens in a necessary form through the law of nature that operates on it and truly compels it. So what should we look for but only to scrutinize where exactly this range of my free choice and there I need to be involved, and in the other things it's like you're fighting with nature out of your nature. You're fighting with nature. It simply doesn't help anything, just like babies or children when they nevertheless insist on something. You can see it's not going to help. It can't be. But no, they still insist. This is how it is. If everything is in movement towards the goal and the will to receive has to be corrected, then what's the need to speed up the process? We don't really speed up the process of correction. There's no time in spirituality. So we can say that we are accelerating this process. You can explain it on several planes, on several levels. One level is that they explain that by that you spare the beatings and this path that you didn't want to walk on, but you were compelled to walk on. It becomes for you a way that is comfortable and good that you agree with this working. So seemingly it's a psychological matter. Right, replace your attitude towards this thing and you'll feel better about it. Why suffer? But there are in that things that are completely on a different level. If a person, the moment that he wants to be similar to the Creator, this means that he comes out to true intention of bestow, and not because of some calculations of that he makes that it's worthwhile for him to do it, but rather without it being worthwhile for me, but rather it's worthwhile for him, for the Creator. When I start to come out of my nature and these calculations, then a person begins to feel reality that is eternal and perfect without any limitations, and that you can't really even know what it is. You can't even explain what it is. That is the person shifts to an existence on a different and completely different dimension, and for that there was truly this intention of agreeing, or even above agreeing, to take upon himself, without any conditions, this compatibility with the Creator. There is here the matter of a completely different level of participation. It's no longer calculations, as we explain it to common people, that this is worthwhile. What's the point in our life? So you'll feel good. Taste and see that the Lord is good. That's how we do it for the meantime. But when a person goes out to existence, and keeping these things without any calculations for himself, then something opens up for him which is above, beyond nature. Are there any other questions? Yes, every time we talk about the will to receive and the will to bestow, and before we acquire the screen and cross the barrier, according to what I understood, if all that we can do is just an intention to bestow, at some point I kind of feel bad because I do each and every intention, but inside, even if I make an intention to bestow, still the will to receive arises. That makes me feel unworthy and just far, and like, what privilege do I have to do what I do? So that really makes me feel bad. So how can I actually turn that desire to receive to be purer, to be cleaner, to not have some will to receive hidden in it? So you're saying the following: each time that I discover on myself that maybe I would have liked to do something in order to bestow, I discover that this in order to bestow is nevertheless, and in the same intention, in order to receive, but it's kind of more concealed, more hypocritical, and from that I only feel worse. I have this unpleasant feeling. So who am I? What am I? And so how long can this go on, right until when? Well, finally, I discovered that more and more my intentions are deeper. Nevertheless, they are also for myself, and true, this is my nature. If it's my nature, what can I do? I can't get out of it. So, what next? Is there some end to this exploration where we're done? This is all of me. A person should realize that all of these feelings from all of our investigations, they have to bring us to some calculation, some decision, and some change. That we shouldn't relate to it in a quantitative manner, where we say, okay, so a few more months, in a few more months, that I will eat myself up, I'll examine myself. Nevertheless, I will see to what extent I'm an egoist, and how, nevertheless, I can't really take anyone into consideration, and I don't even take myself into consideration on the next moment, but only this moment right now. To such an extent the will to receive is short, and so on. And later on everything, something will change. I'll explode. I'll be done with all of these scrutinies. The Creator will see it, and He will change the conditions for me. He will take me to some other kind of existence, some other different state. We shouldn't think that way. This means we shouldn't relate to the changes within us in a quantitative manner. Did 2 months from now or 2 years from now something will happen? No. Person must relate to these things only in a qualitative manner. In general, spirituality is about qualities, not quantities. That is, if now in a state that I now feel that I'm entirely in order to receive, and all of these calculations that I do, the most beautiful ones with respect to the family, the children, doesn't matter who, what, seemingly maybe are in order to bestow, and maybe there is also in order to receive. I have inside of my current scrutiny, only to see the scrutiny to its maximum depth, in order to merge now already to a new state. That is my problem, is the depth of my perception, the depth of my feeling in the recognition of evil. And it's not that I felt 20 times or 20,000 times the evil within me. That does not matter. And how do we then reach that quality of the scrutiny and not the quantity of the scrutiny? It is only through the tension that I feel around me from the society, how much the whole society is on fire in, that this is also passed on to me. And then I also started to relate to it in a very acute, very sharp manner. Wasn't that a question? No. I didn't mean qualitative quantitatively. I meant at that moment. So in that moment I say, I'm telling you, that terrible feeling that I feel. What? Am I trying to trick it? I want it to be pure, clean. No. But you told me okay in the society, the feeling we see from the story of the Exodus and the children of Israel aside from the work or the plagues that Pharaoh went through. Pharaoh is our evil inclination. So even though we have to undergo a certain amount of blows, it happens, after all gradually, but ultimately it has to be such a hatred to my nature that I separate from it completely. And separation in spirituality is through hatred, and through love there is adhesion. There are no distances. So I have to hate my nature so much that I as if cut myself off from it, and I have no more of any contact with it. Again, it's a matter of qualities. Now let's share our impressions from the lesson. What do we take from that for implementation in the 10? So, the impression is that we need to pay attention to the changes in us, to the discernments and calculations that we make once we receive a point in the heart. What do we do with it? If we take care of its development, and that development, we will not measure it quantitatively. Maybe some change will happen to me tomorrow, the day after, but only in our inequality. Yes, this aspect that it's awakened in a person. The point in the heart is revealed to him. It's help from above, and our work, as Raf keeps explaining to us, is the awakening from below. But we need to build such a vessel where each one is ready to come out of himself towards the goal. And if the goal is as much as the goal may not be clear, we still want to advance towards the goal maximum. It's not to wait for the next state to do the maximum possible in the present state, and that is that by the friends, by the society will pressure me so that I feel the recognition of evil in my will to receive. Yes, the pace, the intensity of the scrutiny depends on the atmosphere in the society, in the environment. We start the lesson with that. In the preparation for the lesson, they read an excerpt from Words, where he says there, why are the friends not influencing me or bestowing to me? Because I need to influence them first. Then the society will influence me. The will to receive resists the stall, and it creates preventions, and a person needs to understand this is his nature, the nature of the will to receive, and he has to do exactly opposite to what it wants. So he has to receive strength from the society. They're in it even though he doesn't feel it. So our entire work could be correct and directed when once we build the connection within us, and through that we come to the correction. Yes, how do we reach the quality, not the quantity of the scrutiny? So Rob said, it's only through the tension that I feel around me from the society. How much the whole society is on fire in that. This is also passed on to me, and then I also start relating to it in a very sharp manner. And all the matter of spiritual development, how much we take that to our hands. The Creator gave us free choice, so that we'll identify that we have the wolf, the ability to rise above the will to receive for itself. And from here we can develop in hastening times, not to go into all kinds of places where we will be kept as beasts, but raise ourselves to the degree of man. And one of the ways we heard is to always be in a conscious state and check ourselves. Why and for what purpose are we doing whatever we do? The more we put exertion into it and more scrutiny, the actions become beneficial and meaningful. The matter of quantity and quality of the labour, that the main thing is the quality of the labour, that in the 10 we create an atmosphere that the will to receive doesn't lead us to anything, but we have to come to the world to bestow. We can see even 23 years ago, the moment that Rob says something, that it's a serious work, it's always through the group. If I want any change to happen to me, something good, some strengthening in something, and some preparations that are qualitative or quantitative, it doesn't matter what, I cannot influence myself. If I can't tell myself, yeah, that's what I need. It is all through this roundabout of investing in the right society. So we shouldn't despair because a person feels in the beginning that the ego rules him. Even if he wants to bestow, the ego sets it up. The ego allows it and pushes him, and doesn't know how to come out of that. He wants to. So if he works in the 10, then the relationships will be more precise, because then you can resemble the upper force through the connections between us, and then gradually the light reforms the action until we come to the complete correction. We're reading from Volume 2, Part 5, in a light. It's item 43, beginning with after this he was born. Well, we'll start from reading. Item 43. The words of the are, it returns to being not expanding in and then it is expanding in. It is also expanding in. Because of the there. Because he desires mercy. At that time, it is also expanding in. And then, for then descends to his place. And then it is not expanding in gar. Because ascends with at that time it is expanding in. And light descends into. But it is not expanding in net since the of nets ascends with the ferret. At that time, it is expanding in hod since then the vessel of netzach turns its anterior and gives the 3 lights to hod at which time hod turns its anterior to yod and shines in it. Now we will enter the lesson with rush. What is the difference between the light of that which receives the light of San and the light of the above H which is the light of meaning according to the rumination? Now, he wants to explain to us what the change are in, says that what's born of Zod the association of judgment and mercy and to expand her understanding, what does it mean? We already spoke about this, renewal, in the first expansion, but only the vessel of which is 2 it was refined, to 1 that's where the phase 1 came from right, so through the light of Zan it came over as is written emanated and came out through the not by Biner, and this innovation came here. Why? By the exchange of the lights. And besides that, there is another great innovation, for the light of mood is emanated by the Biner, and not by the as in the tense of direct light. What light have he mentioned here? That came by the Benner. We've learned that too in the vessel of it was made 1 and if comes out in the vessel of he says the light of was emanated by the Biner what? Light of Malat. Look forward, he says here again I repeat. And besides that there is another great innovation here in the second expansion, called for the light of Mot was emanated by the Bina not by the as in the 4 phases of direct light, in the T of direct light. Where does Malhud come from? And like it was in the first expansion, wherein come from because he brings, and like the from the refinement of the male and female of the vessel of the light of that was emanated, and this is called phase 1, and the phase 1 went down to the vessel of Biner, which is the light of Sanan in the vessel of Biner. Therefore by the refinement of male and female of the vessel, which are the Vakov, male, and the Reshimu of the female, then came out the light of Mut meaning he which relates to the Malat because Sheep is light of female, and there's no clarification to that. He only gives us a lore. Then he says the second phase of the vessel of became phase 1. That's clear. Simple. From 2 comes Santon. Where does it come from? Vessel of HMA. Then, he says, emerges from Biner. We've learned that the coupling that was over the two houses. What does it mean? So why is it? Why is it female? So this he doesn't interpret. It appears maybe he wants to interpret it like this. Since in the vessel of there was a coupling over 2 of, and on 2 of he what comes out of 2 of coarseness 1. So we've learned that the light that emerged there is called what? Came out on the second phase called male. Who is called male? I say the light that emerged in the second of clothing and on the second of coarseness, and the vac of this degree took. And this is called the of the vessel of Biner. Again, what is the of the vessel of Biner light of vac that emerged over 2 houses 2 bits. Then he says the vac of Biner that came out by the 2 beds and the Reshimu of the second of clothing that exists. The 2 of clothing that exists in the vessel of Biner, which is called the light of female. From these 2 bits come the degree comes the degree, and so this is called male even though it is just the vac of the degree. And there's also vac over the female, so male and the female. Female is only bit of clothing, so he calls this light that comes out the mal of female. Now this H that he calls light of female he gives to who? To vessel of. We learn afterwards the light of Mut in the vessel of his, like he took the light of vessel of over the coarseness of root, and so here he says before it's purified. The al if of coarseness of root gave her. Hay, so the hay is still in the coarseness of phase 1 accordingly. The question is how can he give, if we say that which is cannot receive more than coarseness of root, then how can he receive the 5th coarseness in terms of the coarseness of hay in terms of phase 1? We'll see afterwards. But what he says, that he turns his interior. What does it mean that he did something to turn his face to be to have some equivalence. So look above what it says. So they said before there was complete refinement what was there. What's sufficient to shine on the hay of Biner? What does it mean? How does it enough? Well, he doesn't interpret this action only. He says it was an action for the to be able to receive. And here we can also give an answer that ultimately we've learned that Zarin cannot receive, that Bina cannot receive from Zanin. That's bet in of herself, and then this is Alf. So ultimately this is even in the second expansion, but even from the first expansion, it was also not just if phase 1. Then he says it's sufficient. But what does that mean? He doesn't say, we'll see. And now you'll understand the difference between the light of which is the light of, and the light of H which is the light of Mut, meaning according to their emanation. Now he wants to explain to us what the changes are in, which he considers from, in that it received the hay from what? From what was the hay the light of phase 1? So he says, in truth, when they were emanated, both emerged on the level of phase 1, where in the vessel of Bna, since phase 2 of son of the vessel of was refined to phase 1 which is the light of, and descended to the vessel of Bin, called the light of or the light of Zarin, light of phase 1 light of, likewise, phase 2 of the male, and female of Biner, that is the vac of the male, and the gar of the female in the phase 2 of clothing we refined into phase 1. This is the light of the H, which is the light of Malut, but you find that the light of which is the light of Zarin, that came out in the refinement of, and the light of the hay which is the light of Malut. Their level is equal, they're both one, because both this and that are phase 1, since they came from the refinement of phase 2 as it was explained. However, there is a great difference between them. Now he wants to explain to us why phase 1, that came out of the vessel of HMA is called male, and phase 1 that came out of zone of the vessel of Biner is called female. This one is phase 1 and is also phase 1 that came from the refinement of the the 2 phases 2. This is what it says here. However, there is a great difference between them, and this is as the measure of the difference of son of and zone of Biner. It has been explained above that zone of Biner, our posterior face, the face of, and the face of zone of, the gar that was there. This light remained in the vessel of HMMA, and a male which is called back descends to Biner, and it is self-evident that also the consequences emanated from them are also as far from each other as the G is far away from Vac, and the light of emanated through the zone is considered as anterior face and gull with respect to the light of the hay, which is considered as posterior face, and Vac in relation to the light of, which is the light of serpent born from the son of HMA from the vessel of HMA, that is, they're evaluated did similarly to those that give birth to them. What does it says here? He wants to give us a distinction also. When it is phase 1 who's Zerin, even though this one is also hay, even the hay is also phase 1, but if you look at those who give birth to them, there is a difference. We need to say there is a difference between phase 1 that is born in the vessel of HMA, and phase 1 that is born in the vessel of Biner. So now, what is the difference between HMA and Biner? He says that the light in HMA is called the light of Gar. The coupling that was on the 2 phases, 2 that emerged in HMA is called Gar, whereas the light of the male that remained that descended to the vessel of is only Vac, and also the record is only a record of clothing. It's only a female. So even though it is phase 1, he gives us a law that there is a difference between those that engender it. The difference between phase 1, born out of the vessel of and phase, and the hay which is phase 1 born out of the vessel of this is what it says here, and not more. So, here what is the he? The he has a dal and a vav. What is this implication that there is a dold and a vav? Daled means gar about a female, as we say. Poor and major vav is considered male, but it is vac. What is the implication? The intimation, since this light is called H, it came out on the male that is in the vessel of Wiener, which is only the B that comes from the 2 faces 2 of the vessel of, even though it has the courses of phase 2, and the female is considered the record of clothing that remain there from the gallery, even though it is gar, but it's poor and meeker, it's only a recordimo. Therefore the hay that came out implies the vav implied to the male, and the dishka implied to the female, and both of them together are considered called hay. This hay came out of the vessel of after it was refined over the 2 phases 2 of the vessel of binder. It turns out that the hay was born out of the 2 of the vessel of Wiener in the male, the light of that. He calls this light of Zeren in the light of the courses of phase 1 was born out of the 2 phases 2, refined in the vessel of P just light, as they beget more over the Biner of Garf. So he calls this the light of male, and the other one the light of the female. Turns out that in the vessel of Zeren, being we're now talking about a smaller face that they have phase 1 there, is a light of the male. It turns out that seemingly they don't use this hay, the hay that is in the vessel of Biner, until Hod. We're now talking about the fact that they have a higher face. Who is that higher face? Phase 1 that came out of the vessel of which he calls the light of Zeren, and the light of that. And we'll move on to the next part of the lesson. Friends, now we will listen to a talk with love, entitled To Awaken in the Creator Passion in Passion for Us. You have a quote, exit number 6. When fear comes upon a person, he should know that there's none else besides him, and even witchcraft. And if he sees that fear overcomes him, he should say that there is no such thing as chance, but the Creator has given him an opportunity from above, and he must contemplate and study the end to which he has been sent this fear. It appears that it is so, that he will overcome and say there is none else besides him. But if after all this, the fear has not departed from him, he should take it as an example and say that his servitude of the Creator should be in the same measure of the fear, meaning that the fear of heaven, which is merit, should be in the same manner of fear that he now has. That is, the body is impressed by this superficial fear, and exactly in the same way that the body is impressed, so should be the fear of heaven. We should read this carefully before we go to sleep. Specifically, before we go to sleep, see how much he doesn't need anything except for the fear that he can focus it. Why specifically before sleep? Because then a person can do some introspection and check himself. Love this excerpt you just read. Barcelona speaks of 2 kinds of fear. 2 types of fear. It seems like the physical fear. The natural one is kind of an animalistic beastly type of fear, correct? That each one of us from an early age is afraid of all kinds of things. You're stressed. All kinds of things. Yes, and when you tell a person, when you say, fear, he knows how to feel that form of fear. But when Bassam speaks of fear of the Creator, how can you feel? How can you get a better feeling of that fear? Because it's the opposite of fear for his body. How can you feel the fear of the Creator? How can you distinguish that? I think there is nothing more for us to do other than to depict the fear of the Creator, so it will grow in us. Simply ask for it. That too. We started the preparation for the Congress in 10th of May. Yes, another month and a half. A month and a half. Yeah, the end of May we have a Congress in 10th. So what this Congress intends is when each 10th gathers somewhere and spends 12 to 24 hours, maybe more together. There's no central place for a gathering. 10 gathers by itself, decides by itself on the content, just like when we went somewhere. This is with the purpose of building the vessels, the tools to reveal the Creator, because we understand only this can be in the 10 with permanent friends. You're right, and here there's a question how to use the events that come before that as preparation for that revelation. Let's say soon we have Independence Day. A week from now, I know Balaam gave a great deal of importance to the fact that we're here in Israel, in the land of Israel, the country of Israel, and if not for that there would be no Kabbalah and no nothing, we wouldn't be able to do anything. Then there's like the 33rd day of the count of the then there's Pentecost, and then all these things are preparation for revelation, so we should reuse these, write all these coins, of course. And then we thought to talk about all kinds of topics. Let's say one of the things that we're doing is we're starting to learn this preparation for the Congress. The giving of the Torah and those are the conditions for the revelation of the Creator. We won't be what we be guarantors, right? So what do you think? What are we lacking? What other activities we can do to prepare ourselves? What I think is that we need to come closer to each other. All of us together is one man with one heart, and not fear anything other than the separation between us. Separation. This is the main problem. Well, we spent over a month at home during the war. We were virtual. We saw lessons from home. Yes, the morning lesson. And now when we came back, I saw that other than my 10. We came back together physically. Other than my 10. The 10s around me don't really interest me. I care only about my own 10. I don't care about anything besides that. Correct. I thought maybe it's a flaw in me. Maybe I'm undeveloped, unevolved, like maybe I should expand my feeling, and then instead I'm contracting my feeling. We're not contracting. I'll tell you, the fact that you say that within you don't have a need for it. Yes, it doesn't mean that that's the end of it. If, on the contrary, you want to extract that emptiness from within you and simply throw it out as quickly as possible and as far as possible. This is what you want to feel in us. Other than my 10, why do I need more people around me? I don't need anything. I feel like other than the people I'm sitting with here, no one interests me in this world. Correct. When you are together with them, organize the environment so that besides it, you don't need anything. The Creator exists so that we will awaken in Him a passion for us. I didn't get it. How do I awaken this passion in us? The Creator contains everything. Yeah, and He exists in everything. And if we don't demand of Him to bring us closer to Him, then He has no need for us. And that's what I can tell you. When we come to a meeting, before that, we should awaken in our assembly a yearning for Him. Let's summarize in the 10 the main principles from the conversation for minutes. We heard very internal words about our feeling, how we feel ourselves. In the 10, to what extent we can make a calculation about where we are, how we feel the 10, and everything outside of it. And love said, it is actually by feeling emptiness in us. It'll be a preparation for the following states, future states. So we should first make some preparation for these states when we get together in the 10. Yet the purpose, the essence, and the purpose for which the Creator arranges such states for us that make us come out of ourselves. So the need for Him will awaken in us. I mainly connected to the way by which Rob described how if we don't demand of the Creator to connect to Him, then it means that we have no need for Him, and before we come to a meeting, before we enter an action, it's recommended to awaken in our gathering a yearning for Him, to see that the fear grows all the time in us, fear of the Creator, and also fear the separation. Work against the separation and only toward correction, connection. Our preparation for the Congress is this nearing between us, and the separation is our primary problem, and that we have to awaken the need for the Creator, which is also a result of effort and connection, and also a few other things that I heard. You can fully understand, depending on how who listens. That's how you understand it. And because we've been hearing for years how important the preparation is in this talk too, we heard that before we come to some joint activity, we have to awaken in us a yearning for Him. I remember this article from Shamarty. The first time I heard it, matter of fear that comes to a person. You can imagine that all of our lives are governed by fears, and if you could feel that same fear from the Creator, how much our lives would change. Yeah, in this lesson, and in the first lesson, I've talked about how we must make calculations in order to advance. The main thing from which we need to be afraid is the separation between us. That's what we need to check each time, to make a calculation. How are we working in the 10 in order to ask for help from the Creator to bring us closer between us and to Him? The request for help should come from understanding and believing that we don't have the strength and we are dependent on Him. We'll go to the next part of the lesson, building a spiritual society. Hello and dear friends, we are at a very special time in preparation for the Congress. We've started already in past weeks the preparation. Today we will be dealing with a key topic, the preparation of the content in each 10. We want to come out of today's session with confidence, knowledge, how each 10 is going to fill these 3 days with good, orderly, purposeful Content through love's instructions. Love asked us many times and be independent. Start managing yourself. So, let's watch clip number 1 and hear from love how important it is for him, for us to be independent, and from there, we'll go into the content. How do we make the correct scrutiny in the 10? Many times we try to reach mutual decision conclusion. It's not always clear relative to which conditions or parameters we have to relate to this scrutiny. How do you make a scrutiny in the 10? What do you want me to keep wiping your noses? What do you want? Stop being so little. Feel some responsibility. It's all in your hands. You keep thinking about what I need to do, but I don't need to do anything. Here, I've given you everything. That's it. A new state, and each time there's a new state, it's different from others, and each one should work accordingly. Each time how to manage it, I don't know. I don't want to know, and the more difficult it is for you, the better. And they'll let them confuse you as much as they will. I don't know if I could. I'd bring you questions so you wouldn't find your hands and legs, and then you'd be sitting and looking at me. Wing will I come and put some order in it? It's a very serious business. It's the very heart of our correction. If you do it, good. If you don't, you don't. Try to read again, to give the all kinds of articles about the society, etc. Please do it. Put all these things together so it is clear to you that it's that pertains to the connection between you, and delve in it every single day. That's the most important. The fact that you know the study of the T, or some knowledge that doesn't pertain to the correction here, the more you are concerned with it, this corrects you. Yet we also heard in the talk of only to afraid be afraid of the separation, so there will be no separation. We need to plan how there will be unity and connection. Last week we started with 3 questions that we worked on all of us together here. The first 4 was how are we going to get organized? Practically, how many days are we going to spend together? Choose the place, those who go out to a special specific place, and so on and so forth. The third question was what do we want to attain? As a 10, what are we lacking that we want to attain from the Congress? And the third question was what actions we wish to do together. Now there's also the main topic after we got organized and asked all the general questions. The central question is what kind of content we wish to have over this 3-day period. Typically there's a content team. The content team arranges everything. We go to the Congress and we get through the content that the team has put together for us. Now there isn't such a thing. There are 2 blocks of content, morning and afternoon, that will be broadcast to all the tea, and the rest of the time every minute we spend together is our minute. As we heard, now we need to be independent. So in this Congress we're going to take another step forward toward our independence of the 10, the strength, the power of the tent to build for itself. And we're going to learn also from friends with experience in different areas of content creation, creating content for the 10, creating general content. It's going to be a substantial, significant portion of our gathering today. We want to come out confidently with the tools to build content for the 10. And who is more experienced than our content manager? Duty, tell us what is done, what was done, how can we give tools to the tenants to advance. So in the name of the content, and let's begin with a slide. We'll go over the content. The title is Gathering in the 10s. That's our purpose. Not in the within, not the whole world. Tent within our own personal tent. Each day we have 2 spots, 2 items. The morning lesson, the usual time, and noon afternoon lesson from 4 to 6. Every such unit is divided into a recorded lesson and a live lesson that will be given by 10. These are our common anchors of the whole world CLE that we're going to do together. In between is a time where the 10 builds the content for itself today, and that's what we'll talk about today. The in between, the common anchors, is a time when we all connect. It's not for our own. It's not optional. We all get together for these points, anchors in between them. Each 10 decides what content it wants to do, what it wants to talk about, what format, style, a work. It's for them to decide. Thursday, we're beginning the Congress a day ahead. It's called lesson number 0. So, the topic will be a preparation for an attack in the morning and in the afternoon. We'll talk about how we soften our hearts and prepare for an intense attack. During the 3 days, we'll go through them together. Friday begins with the greatness of the Creator in the 10. That's the first thing we want to attain, the greatness of the Creator in the tent. The afternoon lesson will be about the joy in the gathering. The reason we picked it specifically at that point is that the majority of the Israeli will be out already at that time, so it's only to increase the joy that we went out. Saturday morning, the topic will be annulment and devotion in the 10. We want to go deeper. Now the afternoon lesson will be love covers all crimes. At that point it'll be kind of a changing of shifts. The majority of the Israeli Kli will be heading back home, and the majority of the world Kli will go up because it's different hours. So, here there's a special lesson on the topic of love covers all crimes. Sunday, which is basically the last day of the Congress. We'll begin with, I wish we prayed all day. That'll be the topic that will accompany us throughout the day. The afternoon lesson will be about the covenant in the 10, and at the end of the day at 6:30, we will have a Thanksgiving meal whose topic is turning to the Creator together. It's a meal to which everyone's invited, all the tens of men and women. Now concerning the preparation beginning next week in the last part of the lesson, the studying between friends, the part that tens give lead the topic will be in preparation for the Congress. There will be tens who will take us through a process and share with us how they prepared as attend to their physical meetings when they went out. They'll give us examples, they'll give us inspiration, they will share how they plan the schedule, the content, how they work with logistics and budgets, how they get organised with meals and cooking and many other areas. Each 10 will give its own colour and uniqueness so that we will all get inspired. Also about the content, we have Camella Media, which is huge content data source, but in the coming days, we will put up new site for the 10th Congress. You'll find everything. The recommended content such as recommended lessons, various articles. According to the times you can read short articles, long articles, clips of have playlists of music that you can listen to with chords so you can accompany it, as well as lineups or tents that are having some difficulties or didn't have time to get organised. So you'll have some lineups that you can take and work accordingly. Most important, there's nothing to fear. If you're only now just beginning to build the content and you don't know where to start, so beyond the confident, we'll give you today in terms of how to get organised. There's nothing to fear because all the materials will be ready and we will support each 10. No 10 will be left often. That's it, workshop. So the first workshop is, how do we build together the content of the Congress? What process we want to go through together? Let's talk about it. Now, how we approach and building the content together. What process we want to go through. 8 minutes. Yeah, it's very important, of course, or essential, the building of the content for the Congress, and we got topics for each one of the Congress lessons, and it will be like the skeleton and anchor for the construction of our content, and the most important is that the creation of the content will be out of connection to remind each other of this point, and from this point to come out in each and every stage in the construction of the content. In the last few days, you know, we've been focusing on that. We're in no hurry to build lineups, but we really want to focus on the essence and the idea of what content and what we feel is right for us. So on one hand, we want to realize in us the material and the anchors we will receiving in the collective joint common times, but we also want to dedicate times for things that are important to our 10 in various areas. We started from a few meetings, also from experience of the last few times we came out of it, and what does it mean to make an action together. We scrutinized that in depth, and then we decided that we want together to create a certain flow for the Congress. First of all, what are the goals? We'll discuss that and will be the flow of the Congress. This is even before creating any lineups, and then we decided that every half a day to match the spirit of the lesson that everyone shares to be in the same direction as all the tens. It's also very important for us in the turn, that we are working on the lesson in the Congress, that we will be build, leading, and also that we're going to some distant place and we'll be there for 3 days. So we understood that we have to do everything together. So each day we are dedicating time and making efforts to understand what is important, what's needed, what's necessary, what will direct us to reach the goal, how we will do it, and we're checking ourselves and testing ourselves, improving, changing, adding, deleting. Each day we're starting over, but our banner is always together. To continue what Nessie said, we felt that if we want to succeed in this process, not just practically to get into it, it's time we need to spend each day. So we decided that our week a daily meeting, it's 5:30, sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes more. We speak of that, and even before we enter the lineups, which are the means we wish to reach the feeling of what we wish to attain in the Congress, what new degree has to bring our 10, and then we get to the means. I think first of all it's important to say that there was talk about sharing experiences of tens that have already done such meetings. For us, the meetings were a basis to draw conclusions, what we've done, what we didn't do well in the previous meetings, and how to make the present meeting much more oriented toward the 10 and less toward building a schedule and a lineup, like in the process we've gone through. Because we started to work on the content full speed. We wanted to get through over the hurdle of deciding on the place on the venue. When do we gather for each one to arrange himself as far as his capabilities, the budget, the family schedule, to no more or less that we are locked in, because that creates a great deal of confusion, lack of desire, frustration, and lack of joy in working on the content. I think it's a critical thing. If once we close it, we decided we enter the process of the content creation, and that should be with joy, and you feel it from gathering to gathering. We enter deeper to feel this process we are going through internally, spiritually, and we're not dealing with the feelings, decisions of when and how, and this way that's very important. And what gives us the direction in the process we want to develop through is looking forward, where we want to be a year from now, 5 years from now. What are the things that maybe on a day-to-day basis we couldn't open and scrutinize? Maybe we need to come closer in the way we see things, and all kinds of topics that are pertinent to the life of the 10. The main thing, we started with purpose of the Congress, the goal. What are we trying? What are we hoping to attain? Not something like, the revelation of the Creator in the tin or connection in the tin. No, not like that. Rather the practical goal, tangible, where we can build these stages in order to obtain our desired goal, to reach the goal. That's the first thing, and from that we built the content. Of course we also we're preparing the first lesson, the greatness of the Creator in the 10. We started from that, the scrutiny between us. How do we reach that greatness of the Creator in the 10? In order to give a lesson, we have to reach that. Also, we separated our different meetings for organization from content. Meetings is completely separated, so we don't confuse them. Okay, we ran out of time. Now we're going to read an excerpt from Rabash, the agenda of the assembly, and the topic we're discussing now are gathering of friends that we're going to have in the tent. So Rabash writes, at the very beginning of the assembly, when gathering, we should praise the friends, the importance of each of the friends, to the extent that one assumes the greatness of the society. One can appreciate the society and then pray, meaning that everyone should examine himself and see how much effort he's giving to the society. Then, when he sees that he's powerless to do anything for society, there is room for prayer to the Creator, that the Creator will help him, to give him strength and desire to engage in love of others. And afterwards, everyone should behave the same as in the last 3 of the 18 prayer. In other words, after having pleaded before the Creator, the Zohar says that in the last 3 of the 18 prayer, one should think as though the Creator has already granted his request and he has departed. So in love of friends, we should behave the same. After examining ourselves and following the known advice of praying, we should think as though our prayer has been answered, and rejoice with our friends as though all the friends are one body, and as the body wishes for all its organs to enjoy We too want all our friends to enjoy themselves now. I remember the first time I heard this article. I really liked it because I like order. And finally, there's a clear order what needs to be done when we get together. Because I was already in states before we knew what to do. So, it's not a given. There are many actions here. I guess we all participated in is gatherings of friends, but we don't always get to do this preparation. When we get together and a person makes efforts and thinks about the greatness of the friends I remember this first item, that we must establish the merit of the friends' merit. I always had many friends before Kabbalah, so it's something very strange that just think before you go to meet with friends. You have to think how to praise them. So every item here is a treasure. It's a clear guidance, and there's a recommendation here that if we succeed in following what Abash writes and doing is according to what Abash writes will come out in wholeness. So just think how many gatherings of friends we've done over the 30 years, times 50 weeks. How much is it? 50 times 30, 1,000 something gatherings of friends, and there are friends, some friends, several friends who are responsible in charge of there. I know that for 3 years I was in charge. Benov was in charge for many years. I know there's one friend that 70-80% of he was in charge, so he will now share his experience with us how to build a gathering of friends. So I am inviting Senior to tell us about the stages and how to build. Years I was in charge of the global gathering of friends, a global gathering of friends, but here we're talking about the gathering of friends of the 10. That's something completely different. We don't select those top friends, so to speak. We need to have the entire circle work. We need to start from praise to the society and end with it that the goal has to be. It's not a tip. It says that's how it should be, that we get up as one man in one heart, that's it. No less than that. And then everything has to aim for that. So the goal is clear. The topic, are we having a gathering of friends before the lesson? So it's possible to use the topic of the lesson, the prayer, or unity between us. That's the topic of the gathering of friends. And now the goal. The purpose is to get everyone, going to ignite everyone to reach a certain height, certain level, to be a vessel to grasp what Ari has given us in the lesson. But in those things, this small bits of advice are that one way or another. You need to have connection to the source, need to have sources, quotes, and not any quotes. That will spark us, ignite our hearts, not something so complicated. It has to be connection with let's say connection with the teacher, and all for a clip with Rob. That breaks the heart. The connection between us has to be clear, has to be the connection between us, and we have a chain of workshops when we speak and we hear each other. An inner connection has to be. So, a workshop where we were silent, just like that we pass this force between each other to one another. That's what I think. And then gradually we come to a place where we have to invite the Creator into it, and this is called the prayer. And to reach a prayer, we must reach the prayer, because who are we? We can't do anything without Him. We must come to a prayer. And also Rush writes, so he doesn't write it, but we didn't read it, he writes about it. But we have to come to joy, we have to sing, so sit and sing and embrace, as Rav said recently, and sing together. These are we. I can keep going, but these are the things that must be there in the gathering of friends. But the main thing is that the preparation for the gathering of turns in the 10. That's what I think. That's how we arrange ourselves in PD12. Each one has to add is his stone to this construction, like the stony heart. A one brings the quotes, one brings a clip, one brings a song, but each one has to bring something, right? Okay, Sankar, as usual you always go straight into our hearts, and I want to say that none of us can be and probably should not be with all your experience and knowledge, but here we've received some tools. I think we should type what Zener said and give it out to the 10 as tools. Each 10 will choose what it takes from this, how it builds it, who builds it. There is a pivotal, it's one of our key elements. So, thank you for giving us your experience in 2 minutes. Yes. Give him a hand. How do we conduct meals? Okay. How do we conduct the meals? We're going to hear from Jonathan Mangold and Abbasan how they are planning to have the meals in PT27, also in general, the content in the Congress, but I wanted to speak about the importance of the meal, this spiritual event, special spiritual occurrence. We know we all have our lives throughout the week, but there's a spiritual peak for the 10, and that happens during the meals, and it's something that I can see, let's say in our 10, no matter what, there's always a meal. There's wars, there's missiles flying, there's everything. There's a lot of things they tell you cannot do, but there's a meal. Why? Because it's a natural state. It helps us summarize what we went through during the week, helps us look forward what we want to have from the coming week. It practically builds us from week to week, and I'm certain this is in everyone who experienced it also for many years. In PT6 also there, it's the same exact thing. I feel comfortable saying it because it's clear to me that this is how it is, and it's truly how it is, no matter what, the meal takes place, and that's how it should be. We get in this Congress an opportunity to have 9 meals. It's a lot, and if we use them correctly, we will be able to take flight in Congress. So let's hear Jonathan and AI hear how they are planning their meals, right? So for us, of course, a meal after the morning lesson is the most important event in our reality, in the life of the 10. That's the place where we build a strong yearning for the Creator, and the place where the Creator enters and we receive the filling in. Practice how we do it. There are always 2 friends who are in charge of the content, and there's a clear understanding that those 2 friends are leading, and the rest of the 10 are nulls. Before the decisions of those friends, before the meal, whether it's a weekly meal, maybe a meal at the Congress is different, but in the time before the meal, the friends can suggest ideas, things they want to talk about during the meal, and the friends who are leading the content will decide what eventually goes in or doesn't go into the meal, and it doesn't matter what direction the meal goes in. We always begin with a round of building the greatness and importance of the goal of the Creator and the means we have, which are our connection in the 10. In this preparation, the preparation is what will dictate the mindset, how we enter the meal, how we come out of it with a feeling of exaltedness, of importance, with greatness, and of course, I took what Sankar said earlier, that each one is a partner. Each one brings his unique part, and together we build this yearning. Of course, in the spirit of the study and what we're going through, and in general, it's the yearning throughout the day to come to the meal. What do I come with? What do I want? So, the friends will feel me, the little one, that little part in the tent. What can I bring them? So they would come out as Robish writes with a great property, great acquisitions. So this yearning would live in us, would awaken in us more and more desire to give to the friends, and each 10 builds this yearning that, which is something you cannot define in words. It's an inner connection where the meal also is an extremely spiritual moment where I lose myself. I simply lose myself to the friends who live in the vessels of the friends. So may it live in us, as we heard from Rav, that the critter exists in order to awaken in us this yearning, this passion, so that to this preparation, to the preparation may live in us. Another very important element in our spiritual world is songs, melodies, and this whole part called music. We talked about it a lot over the years, in all kinds of ways, and we see first of all that came were the first, those who started it. We start with melodies. There are many melodies, ones that Balaam wrote and others that were composed on words from Psalms or other sources. I think every person who listens to melody by should awakens something in the heart, and where we do it together, it becomes something entirely different with or without words. Sometimes only the melody, sometimes the melody with the words. That's number 1. Number 2 is everything we've developed over the years. Many friends here who are very talented and wrote songs either to words from the sources or from some common spirit that we want to feel in this action where we sit together as a 10 and sing. There's a very special value to it, and it doesn't matter if I sing, not if I sing well or I'm totally tone deaf, and I can't put a word to a rhythm here. We're not performing here. We are in the tent. There's no one here on the outside that we need to impress. I also don't need to impress my friends in the 10. They know me, but my connection to this common activity called singing, my effort to sing together with the friends, not above them or below them or separately, but together with them, creates a connection, and each 10 knows its own character, its own style. Some friends can play, some friends can't. Some friends can sing, some friends cannot. It doesn't matter. This element has value in and of itself because it helps us do something together. 2 very dear friends of ours who help us a lot in this topic of singing and music our way and the Safed. So let's hear from them a little bit about what they know. Okay, what can we add after the view? So, the view really distilled the essence, which is not important if you know how to sing, you don't know how to sing. It's important to understand that a song is a means through which to connect to, feel one another. It's a way to awaken, joy to awaken or a more bittersweet or melancholic, feeling something more internal, and in general music is very natural. It exists around us all the time. So first of all, we have the Congress website, right? And on the website you have a playlist with all the songs from many, many years. The advantage about our Congress is that we buy ourselves. So on, we can decide which songs the 10 likes. We can make a playlist for the ride until we get to our destination. We can prepare a more special place for morning and then more, and a place for the evening where we want to gather more internally. We can have a place with songs from a long time ago or from the past, for it's not forbidden but not customary to play and sing and all kinds of public events. We can hear them now. We can lean into our glorious past, and so everything is in the Congress website. You can find it there. Okay, what can I say? Songs and praises to the Lord. We want to praise the Creator, the one unique, and the best way to go into the friend, to get into the friend's heart, is by singing together. At the Congress site, there will be a link to the songbook that Donnie Witzfield collected over the years. She did an amazing job. 120 or 150 songs, including sources, and all the songs and languages with all the words in order, with all the chords, with really easy. Each one will have the link. You can print it out to the prints. You can use your phones, whatever. Beyond the playlists on SoundCloud and other places you can use for the drive, you can also do live singing. Like we said, it's not a show, it's a way to connect. In other words, for example, in our 10PT23, one of the items is that a friend suggested when we took it, we embraced. It is to do 20 minutes of singing of songs from the sources such as me, my brothers and friends, 20 minutes. Without talking, song after song after. So, to really sing and praise the Creator, because that's what we want. So everything will be on the Congress site, and in every action, let's use this special tool and do everything for Him. So we spoke about the lessons. We spoke about gathering of friends. We spoke about meals, spoke about songs. And when you take the day in its entirety, such a day that the 10 connects, there are many, many spaces between their activities, before an activity, after an activity, and these spaces, a foundation inside of which our soul can grow if we help one another maintain a dense atmosphere between us. If we surround everything with the opening of the heart, the feeling of the yearning for godliness that exists in every friend, and special and exalted, and one that you sometimes miss in our day-to-day, in our routine work, and specifically in those actions. You get these spontaneous spiritual interactions. Suddenly you're walking, you're hiking, and when the 10 hikes, you find yourself suddenly a little slower, a little faster. You speak with a friend about something you never thought you're going to discuss with him. You read a little prayer from Rabash, from the collection of prayers that I highly recommend to carry with you. You can always open it up from the bottom of my heart. It's called, and He instantly raises us toward the upper light. This silence, or this quiet moment that yearns for the light, or has to be like a carpet inside of which everything exists. For us in the 10, the things that are in between become the thing that awakens us the most. So let's try glad. Yes, what Owen explained so much. Emotion now in the end as we move it into details. We want to be at the Congress for 3 complete days. It's true that maybe we'll spend 12 hours or 24 hours or maybe even the whole time physically, but the Congress itself is 3 days, and during the Congress there are many such moments like Oren mentioned. If we are together in some place, we get up in the morning, how do we help each other, and who takes responsibility? That when we get up we don't get dispersed, but immediately focus on the goal, on the way to the Congress, on the way back. As a safer way just gave us an example, you can prepare playlists of songs or workshops to do on the way. So we don't just look at the road and listen to the radio, God forbid, but we are in the Congress. The Congress is not a place, it's a feeling, it's a state. So we are in the Congress on the way there and on the way back. If we are more virtual, even more challenging. Let's say that there are a day or 2 when we don't meet physically or at all. Maybe we are 10 that cannot meet physically the whole Congress and will be virtual. How do we fill every minute with a common action? It's a challenge. We have to ask this question, and each 10 should find its own answers how to fill up the times, because what is the alternative? If we don't plan, as I've said, there's no place in spirituality for spontaneity. If we don't plan it, something else will fill up the time that we don't want it. It won't be a Congress anymore. A Congress is 3 days planned throughout, and especially in those moments the 10 can choose that this too will fill with purposeful content. Now we're coming to our next workshop. From everything we've heard from experienced friends about the cultural evenings, songs, meals, free time, what are we as a 10 going to implement from what came up here in the meeting today, and who from us will take responsibility for these various parts we talked about? Let's give it 8 minutes. We constantly check where we can improve. If we decided on something, we know what will be the content, what will be, what is the plan, but we can always add, so that we have we're highly motivated here to reach this kind of focus that will allow us to become as one man in one heart. We need to take it practically what we did in our 10. We divide each of these days into content blocks. We have the blocks we heard about in the morning lesson, but beyond that, divide everything into content blocks and place names of friends, at least 2 for each spot. Make sure everyone participates here. Everyone's in charge of some content. It's very important, specifically at this Congress. As opposed to a big convention here in the building, there's an hour to take apart or put together after the meal, before the meal. Yeah, it's likely that all the items that were mentioned here we're going to embed into our lineup. We also decided that the content that was decided on with the mutual blocks, that's going to be the content we're going to continue with throughout the day. Right now we're in the process of determining, relative to each and every topic that was announced, what forms of implementation, realization if you want to apply, and then breaking it down to subtopics and then realize it during the content blocks. I too thought about the need to get organized. I saw several examples, and also from the experience, there has to be a producer to the event, and to make it more efficient I wanted to suggest 2 main producers. 1 producer for corporeal organization, everything that has to do with getting organized physically, and a producer for the spiritual content. These are the 2 people who will be in charge on the organization. Under them will be 2 people in charge for each block throughout the Congress, and we the whole 10 will decide what we want to have on the organizational aspect and on the spiritual aspect, the content of our activity. And according to this, we will know exactly who is in charge of what and why in pairs. Because if one of the friends does not participate or participates partially, then he will have someone to stand in. And if both cannot, then we have the main producer who can delegate the responsibility. I think that in the coming Congress, we're all going to be involved in the doing in the building of the content on all its parts. If it's a meal, if it's a gathering of friends, so on and so forth, are obviously to be more efficient. We'll probably divide it into pairs or small teams that will lead each item, but the fact that we're all aware of the essence and we built it together has a strong effect on things. We're going to start the Congress Thursday, and we want to make sure that the entire 10 is on the premises physically. So we will go through the 2 days. We're planning on being physically together. Friends, we see that there are many friends who share many tea who speak, and we're overjoyed. So we want to hear you. We'll hear some tents that have made some decisions, decided where to go, decided on a direction, even if it's in a general idea. If it's not nailed down, it's okay. You don't need to read us your lineup, but if you want to share with us, if you build something, decide on something, offer first. And where's 10? PT35 going to tell us what are you going to do? Give him a mic. In PT35, we started working on it since after the Congress, and practically 2-3 years ago, weeks ago. We have teams, we have people in charge, we have a place, we have the content, have the teams. Tell us, where is the place? What teams? Tell us a few words. We will be at a friend's house. We have teams divided that will deal with the meals, logistics. The reason it's important for me to stand up and be heard now is that I want to tell you not to be afraid. There is everything. We didn't do anything. I have pre-prepared content what to do at meals. Everything is ready. We have everything prepared. You just need to put together the details according to the spirit that's suitable for the tent. What you give now is a good spirit. In the remaining time, just give some more confidence to the friends. All I did was to do some copy-paste of everything we've learned throughout the years. Thank you very much, friends. That's about your 10. Okay, we also close on a place where here we found a beautiful complex. Really 3-bed and breakfast. A patch of grass in the middle, barbecue. We found after we looked for many places. I cannot so sure I can share pictures. Later, the creator really helped us. There, we have teams, content teams, cooking, of course, chefs. The food, the menu. The food menu is almost done. What are we going to get? Who's organizing everything? Can you share one content item that you decided on already? So as far as content itself, the content team now got more and more confidence, and from what I heard from them starting this week, they're going to determine that's 3 friends who are going to work on the content. They're going to meet starting this week, once, twice a week, and dedicate time to it until the Congress. And from what I heard, they understand the responsibility, the level of responsibility to maintain the 10 concentrated throughout Congress. Question marks from friends overseas, even if you're not decided just here. Their direction. We only noticed a few days ago that 10s in the society are already getting organized, and still we didn't know where we are. So we got ourselves together. Thursday, we had a tense meeting. Very stormy one, I'm sure other 10s around us noticed, but we drew conclusions and directions. When you say it's stormy and tumultuous, what is it about? Everyone here cares, and we really want it to be good, and we want there to be connection, and we talked about the direction and what the goal we want to achieve. That was like the main topic. So we got divided into teams. So we have a content team. We have a team that will book the place, and there's a team for schedule for walks. There's a team for everything, and the rest of the 10 are now before that team. That's it. We're not asking about details for nothing, because we want to reflect to you that process is a process. Okay. So what's important for me to say is that it was announced that the Congress begins Friday. When does it start? In the morning. Lesson. That's the first lesson of the Congress. So we said that's the beginning of the Congress. We're hoping to be together at the beginning of the Congress. In order to be together at the beginning of the Congress, we have to prepare before that, and to sleep before that, just like before we went to the Arava, to the desert. So we decided to go Thursday afternoon. 100% of the members of the 10 will come Thursday toward evening. We'll do some preparation and we'll get up for the first day of the Congress Friday morning. I want to share that in our 10 fan, We decided on set times when we will be discussing the work on the Congress. Of course we have teams we divided into teams that work on everything. But I want to talk about something special. This dilemma that we had in the 10 that eventually resolved itself in an interesting way. We have a huge friend in the 10s who invited us over to his place, and we decided in the 10s to spend physically 2 days out of the Congress, Friday and Saturday, and friends loved the fact that the friend invited us to his place. We usually have meetings there, but we're concerned that the friend will host us for 2 days, it will put him into this state of concern. We wanted him to be relieved of this concern to be fully with us, and so with the help of another friend from the group who runs a hotel, we rented a suite for 2 days, something amazing, huge, all the facilities we need for the Congress, and we are organized. We're sitting by the Conger on the content, and we'll succeed together. Hello great friends. We're very happy to tell you about our preparation. We are already in a state of elation. We will get together at a forest. There will be some friends who will be virtual, and they'll be always connected to us. We will open Zoom so that they'll be with us all 24 hours, preparing the exhibits, amazing clips from the lessons. Some friends are preparing the music, some friends are preparing the content for the meals, and of course, we feel this Congress with elation. Latin for Latin 4, we can't hear you. Latin 7, okay, there's a technical problem, so because this is a problem, we're going to conclude this part. We're also going to have in the afternoon lesson a discussion on this topic, and we have Rav's direction. We're going to see clip number 2, so we shouldn't forget. From which place are we going to have all this activity in the Congress? Clip number 2, in building the content of the great convention, should there be work that is built out of the center of the tent? Yeah, we should all connect to the center of our general 10, and from that off effort to build the content and the activities and the workshops and so on so forth. The Congress has to be as 10 that builds itself ahead of the Congress, ahead of it and in it. Okay friends, so as we just heard from Love, we need to see how we build the content of our Congress 10 Congress, and I'm sure that for each 10, it will be the next spiritual level, and between us we need to create an atmosphere where each one has the confidence that he can do anything. He can do anything and make the 10th Congress the most special that is his 10th can go through. Moving on to some organizational topics just to give a few updates. So, first of all, there was a question yesterday from one of the friends here who studies at the center asked me about payment for overheads. He said there was a war. They should have given us money back for charging us for overheads. We pay 65 shekels those who are here in VAR and come to the lessons, so it's important to say that. We did not charge anyone during March 2026 for overheads for those who participate. Here in April we went back to activity, so we did charge, so each one can be relaxed about that. The other thing is the tuition that is beginning in the coming week on April 21st. That's Tuesday. So before I begin to detail the process, first we want to mention the countries that are not participating in the tuition. United States, Canada, South America, Europe, Turkey, Russia, Ukraine. Again, the following countries are not participating in the first stage. For technical reasons, the United States, Canada, South America, Europe, Turkey, Russia, Ukraine, you will continue paying as you have been paying until today. When we are ready in your areas, you too will move to the new tuition. So why are we making this change? First of all, our world community has grown from a group of a few dozen students. Today, we are tens of thousands of students, and we're certain it will grow. It's all a matter of time and our will for it to happen. Until today, when the group started, was in charge of the group, and his line was very clear about how it should be conducted and what other things that we should do. And there was no question about whether or not I pay my out of my income. It was a given that you pay myself. Why? Because that's your spiritual life, And that's your personal relationship with the Creator. And based on that, tithing that everything was established. And this is how the group sustained itself for many years until it grew. And over the years we wanted to expand and open ourselves up to more audiences and more friends to come and join, and our ability to demand and draw very clear lines in terms of how Kabbalists' conduct themselves went through some blurring, and we didn't speak directly about Mass. Those who absorbed it in his early years next to it was very clear to him that this is what we do. Those who came later, it became more unless he got it through with the friends or heard about it then. Maybe he joined that as well, but one way or the other we understand that we cannot build our organisation on the and the donations. And today, that's the way it is. We are based on that, and we want to create a model, an economic model that will enable us to exist whatever happens, that no matter what we will be able to continue, whether or not my own personal considerations is to pay or not to pay. Myself, we want to create economic stability so the organisation can continue. Hence, we are introducing the tuition. It is differential, taking into consideration the people's places in that it's divided into 3 tiers. There's the highest tier, which is 180 shekels, middle tier, which is 90 shekels, and the bottom tier, which is 60 shekels. We're following the shekel because this is a stable currency for us. Before that, we tried to attach ourselves to the dollar and the euro, but as a result, lost a lot of money because the currency keeps changing. Their exchange rate keeps changing. So their finance committee decided it wants to stick with shekels. It's an association that's managed in Israel. So this is what it does. Every 6 months, there'll be an examination according to the present exchange rate, and the charge will be accordingly. So what does it cover? The tuition. It charges all the activities. Until now we had the subscription that covered only the technological expenses. With the subscription you could go into all of the technological products. The vote system, the archive, you already know it. Today, the tuition will cover everything. It covers teaching and content we get here on a daily basis. It covers the live broadcast, the lecturers who give lessons during the day. We'll see to the upgrade of our translation systems. We often have to translate, and those who can do it are people who are working on the payroll. And because there are no volunteers for this, it will keep covering the technology, which is only growing each day in terms of the demands. We have our physical center. We're going to cover it together. Also, the system of accompanying new and existing students, that too it will cover, and the management and services we get here on a daily basis. What else is important for us to say? Those who are here continue to pay 65 shekels or overheads. It does not replace it. Perhaps in the future we will see a possibility to make it under one payment. At the moment, if I'm from Israel and I come to study in the morning, I pay the tuition plus the overheads. Another thing that's important to mention, the tuition does not replace is a person's spiritual calculation. He does it with himself. That's his spiritual correction. That 10th part he will never correct unless he cuts it off from himself. As we heard throughout the years, once a month. Another important point, we have no purpose, no intention to take from those who pay. Myself more than we took more than they gave until today. So for those who do pay, myself, we'll try to give a monthly discount. How do we do it? Every moment when we charge once a month, we look 12 months back. Then did I pay myself over the last 12 months more than the year annual tuition? For example, if I'm from Israel and I have to pay this month, so at the time of the payment, there's an automatic check that examines how much mail and donations I gave over the last 12 months. If I paid more than 2,160 shekels, automatically I get 55% discount, and that will be the tuition I'll pay. The part that I do pay is my relative part to what I use today, just like the subscription. And this thing is true for all the levels of payments, all the tiers, the top, middle, and bottom tier. Also, with regard to couples, the same principle. At the moment of payment in the system, we put the couples together, And we check the same thing. Beloved friends, dear friends, we want to continue the spirit of the lesson. In our meal, we want to enter even more internally, open our hearts even more, and we want to be in a prayer to the Creator to connect our hearts. Let's read an excerpt from the lesson. Love says the exertion is what gives you the adherence in the Creator, what makes you better, and be resemble and to resemble to Him. The exertion is what gives you the adhesion in the Creator. This improves you and makes you resemble to Him. And now we have a great joy that each and every one of us has the opportunity to give effort, to prepare each and every friend, to take care of each and every friend in the 10 Congress. And through this worry and effort, we want to resemble the Creator that is constantly caring for us, the friends, tomorrow. Item 3. By being in a group where there's love of friends, I will be able to mount the trail that leads to the house of God. Again, by being in a group where there is love of friends, I will be able to mount the trail that leads to the house of God. When we're in a group, we're already in bestow, we're already in prayer and gratitude. We're in a place that where you can ask, where you can pray, where we can improve our connection between us towards each other. While doing all these things, we start to reveal the upper light that the warmest Creator gives us, and through that, we reach straight to Him. Amishano, our teacher told us, you must invite the upper light to work on your heart. You must invite the upper light to work on your heart. The Creator does according to the yearning of men. The Creator does according to the yearning of men. In truth, I was inspired by the talk with love that he said that before each gathering that we have, we need to awaken a yearning in the Creator. It's kind of I don't understand the system, but I feel that with the friends, the help of the friends, we can truly pass on this yearning to one another. Let us now think about it together for a minute. We'll think how we awaken the yearning in the Creator. Let's call if the society is made of 10 members, for example, each will have 10 forces. Practicing self and annulment, hatred of self and love of others. Again, item 7, if the society is made of 10 members, for example, each will have 10 forces practicing self-annulment, hatred of self and love of others. I don't want to exist for myself. I want to stay away from evil and do good, love and mercy, and to rejoice with the friends as the Creator wants me to be.